Breaking just moments ago, new data showing January was the worst month for job cuts since the 2009 Great Recession. CNN senior reporter Matt Egan is joining me now. What else is this report telling you?
Yeah, Sarah, look, this is a bad way to start 2026, right? Layoffs way up, hiring way down. So Challenger Gray and Christmas reports that during the month of January, U.S.-based employers announced just over 108,000 layoffs. Now, that is roughly double January of 2025 and roughly triple the end of last year. In fact, Sarah, as you mentioned, this is the highest since January 2009 during the great financial crisis. Of course, that was just months after the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Now, as far as where the layoffs are, it's really largely in two sectors, transportation and technology, really leading the way. In fact, two companies, UPS and Amazon, account for roughly 40% of the announced layoffs. Also, healthcare, chemicals, and finance as well. Now, as far as why companies are laying off during the month of January, the leading reason was a loss of contract, market and economic conditions, restructuring as well. Artificial intelligence, as you may have guessed, also playing a role as well. So you put all this together, and again, it really paints a concerning picture about the job market. Now,
with all of the layoffs going on that I'm seeing, like Washington Post, Amazon, I feel like every time I go on LinkedIn, I'm just scrolling through my feed and everybody is losing their jobs. As someone who has been laid off not once, not twice, but 3 times, I wanted to share my experience, not just being laid off, but being laid off as someone who's also single. Losing your job sucks regardless, right? Getting laid off, whether you're married, in a relationship, or single, it sucks across the board. But getting laid off while also being single is just like an inherently like a different type of experience. Something that would really bother me when I was like going through like a layoff is when people in like committed relationships, whether that's marriage or like living with their spouse or even just a relationship in general, when they would say to me, and this has happened many times, they'd be like, oh, I know it sucks, but just like, you know, treat this time for yourself. Like, don't jump right back into work. Like, take some time, sit back, think about what you want to do. You know, don't jump right back into something. Take this like forced time off as like a blessing. And like, no tea, no shade. I know they didn't mean anything by it. They were just trying to be nice. But like, it would just bother me so much because I'm like, first of all, I don't have the privilege to just sit back and just like be like la-di-da. Like, no, I gotta grind. I have to like figure out how I'm going to make money and pay bills because I'm on my own. I don't have like a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend to lean on to help me pay the bills or to get on their health benefits. Like, I don't have that luxury. And when you're single, like, you're just forced to figure shit out on your own. Like, of course, like, you know, I'm so grateful for my support of my friends and my family, but it's different, right? Like, that's a different kind of relationship than living with your partner or being married. And people who are in relationships and, you know, they lose their job and they start collecting unemployment, their unemployment checks are going to go much further than mine do. And I remember when I was collecting unemployment, it was like barely covering my rent. Like, it was not enough to live off of. So I had to like figure out other means of income and like pull from my savings like much sooner because I was doing everything, paying for everything on my own. I'm not trying to come across as a hater at all. Trust me. I'm just trying to like explain and remind people that when you lose your job and you're single, it's again just inherently a much different experience. Like, not only just from like a financial perspective, but also like emotionally, mentally, like you just don't have that same type of support.
My husband and I have been married for almost 8 years. I lost my job on Monday, right? I could not, it was the company shut down. Let's just get that clear. But I couldn't imagine if the conversation was, it's cool, babe, I just cover your portion of XYZ until you get another job. Like, I would be mortified. I couldn't imagine Venmoing each other back and forth like roommates, zelling each other back and forth, cash apping each other back and forth. Like, the difference in a conversation when it's a I and a you versus we're just going to move this around because we both know where our money is. We both track our finances. We're both absolutely involved in everything. It's more of a, okay, we just going to move this around versus, oh, you this and me this. And what I can say is that has allowed us to have way less stress. And one thing we don't argue about is money. Like,
Hey, it's tough times out here, man. It really is. And the numbers don't lie. Listen, I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers don't lie. We can talk about how the government is not providing all the data. But even what we're seeing right now from what's being portrayed in the media, even what's being said from your family and friends in your communities, I would say that definitely it's getting worse than what we think, right? And so I put these particular videos together to just reflect on what's going on both sides when you're single and you're married, right? And regardless, anybody getting laid off is going to create a rift in their lives, if you have somebody with you or you don't. And so just from the numbers itself, and I would say, man, when it comes to what the numbers are, right? And I know like in the news, they were saying most of it, in particular for January, across the board was mostly in transportation and AI. You got to understand that creates a ripple effect, not just for particular companies. So let's say in transportation, right? Let's say a small town has, a big company there, right? And, that town is being supported with local restaurants, with local businesses, because there's a big company there. And so if that company shuts down, that creates a ripple effect, not only for the people that's there at that company, but for that community as well. Like, again, now transportation, let's say it was a trucking company or whatever, right? And they got a lot of deliveries, people coming in and out of town. They staying there, now they're using a restaurant there. Now they're buying different gear and stuff they need before they go on the road. That's supporting that community's, economy. And when that goes away, that's other people that's losing their job. And that's what's not being reported, right? When it comes to AI, it could be big corporations. We know right now when we had the people who staying at home, the stay-at-home ordeal, that really affected a lot of communities because people who would typically go into the office would stop at, the local Starbucks, stop at this local bagel shop. But when they wasn't coming in to the offices, those businesses struggle, right? So it's not only the numbers that we hear about from people who actually losing their job, it's just a big ripple effect. Now, how does that affect, people who, the autonomy of people who are single and married, right? And that's why I wanted to put both videos up. From the one girl saying, hey, I'm single and this is what the effect is. I can't rely on nobody else, family, friends, or a significant other. I have to grind. And it's funny because she was saying how when she talked to, when it happened to her, I think she said she got laid off 3 times. But when she did get laid off, she would speak to someone who's in a relationship. And again, she said, I definitely think they were malicious about it. But, she would say, oh, just take some time off. Use this time to, kind of reflect or whatever. But she like, no, I can't do that. I don't have that luxury like you may have to, give myself a mental break. I have to get on the grind. And a lot of people right now going through that. Listen, we know right now there are more single people than married out here in our communities out here in the US. There are a lot of married people, but there are a lot of single people out here. And so just imagine you getting laid off. You may have to go back home with mom and dad. If you don't have mom and dad, what do? You know what I mean? You're going to shack up with friends potentially, but nobody's willing to I don't say nobody, but most people are very hesitant to, let you come in if you have no type of income. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying never situations, but most people like, now I'm taking on a burden when I'm already struggling as well. Or, hey, I'm kind of, looking over my shoulder because I may get laid off next. You see what I'm saying? The numbers are rising. So, I think last year in 2025, they were saying over X amount of millions of jobs was lost. And, they're not, what's the saying now? They're quick to hire, quick to fire, slow to hire. That's what the slogan is now. Quick to fire, slow to hire, because they're trying to balance it. And part of that balance is they overhired during COVID. And also, you know, a lot of people created jobs. I think during COVID, I want to say like, and I had to go back and look at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure it was saying something like 3 million jobs was open. Now, part of that was out of that 3 million, and again, don't quote me on my numbers, but I'm making a point. Let's say 3 million jobs was open during COVID, right? That means from last time I checked, I want to say like 500,000 people died from COVID, right? That's out of the workforce. Maybe another 500,000 retired. That's 1 million going out of the workforce. Then everybody had money at the time. That's another 2 million jobs created. Or let's say another 1 million jobs created. That's 2 million, right? Just people having money to create their own businesses. And then the new jobs popped up, the Instacarts, right? More people doing Uber because they didn't have to do a traditional retail job or have to do a corporate job. So that took a lot of stuff, a lot of positions outside of the regular working. And then what was left over from that was people just job hopping because you can get more money. And so some of the companies were, you know, hoarding talent and things of that nature. So it just was crazy. And now they saying they overhired, but really what it come down to is where the economy is currently at. And what occurred what's affecting the economy is multifaceted, right? We know tariffs are impacting it, but also we're looking at inflation as well, right? We're looking at the cost of goods, we're looking at taxes, everything going up. And again, I never try to get super political on my channel, but all this wasn't caused by Trump. Yes, part of it was when it comes to the tariffs, but you got to remember, food and stuff started going up when Biden was in the office, right? So their administration. But also, I'm not even blaming both of them, the presidents. I want to blame these companies for getting greedy. You know, all the money that was pushed out during COVID, they got greedy, man. They got super, because people had it at the time. I get it. But now, if you really look at what's going on, I think, matter of fact, I looked at a bag of chips. It went down 50 cents. That's the first time I ever seen prices go down on something, like when it comes to that. And I'm not saying they never do, but typically when prices go up, you might get a 5-10 cent discount, right? But 50 cents to $1, I ain't seen that. So, and one other thing with that, it's called shrinkflation, right? That's another thing. Like, let's say, I think like Quick Trip or whatever, right? In my community, they used to have a 32 ounce, right? It went to a 28 ounce, right? But it still had the same price. So they didn't have to up the price. They can just give you less of the product. So that's another thing. The quality of food went down. So people cutting costs, cutting the quality of the product or the food, but still charging the same, right? So they don't have to raise the price. So it's again, all this stuff is multifaceted to say, when you're single, it's still harder to bounce back, man, with what's going on in the economy. Now, on the last video with the girl saying, hey, you know, I'm married and I can just only imagine if, you know, if I didn't have my husband, the mentality was with roommates, I'll just pay this till you get back on your feet, versus the mentality being, hey, baby, I got you no matter what. When you get on your feet, cool, but don't worry about it, no stress. I got you. So, you know, we know that a lot of divorces happen because of money. And she said, you know, the last girl, she was just saying, you know, they just in a way better situation because that's not the beef, right? Is the financial aspect. Yeah, it's like, hey, she probably like, look, I need to work because I don't want to put all the strain on my husband. But that's not what they're going to beef about when a lot of divorces come down to the money. So listen, it's tough times out here, man. You know, hold on to your job if you can. I know you may be in a situation where it sucks and you may not enjoy where you at, but ask anybody looking for a job right now. We all know about ghost jobs at this point. We know about ghost jobs. We know they BSing out there on a lot of stuff just to, you know, keep their shareholders happy. And it's like I said, this stuff is deep, man. The way that the companies prop up certain jobs for certain numbers, you know, to be able to, you know, make the economy look a certain way because, we got so many jobs opening, and to keep their shareholders happy. That's really what it come down to as well with these companies, why they laying off so many employees. A lot of people can say it's AI. Yes, that's a part of it. But really and truly, it's down to the shareholders. Legally, they have to make money for their shareholders. So the easiest thing to do is to cut the labor, which they overhired anyway. And or they may rehire at a way lesser price. So you might have been getting paid like, let's say 120, but they may cut your position and hire somebody back at 50. You see what I'm saying? That saved them money as well, because they may be like, dang, we still need the workforce. Or they may say, hey, you know what? We got the technology now. We've invested with AI. We don't need the workforce. And then we just replace, you know, it costs us $10,000 for this AI, but we just replaced it, that $120,000 job. You see what I'm saying? So it's not only that cut and dry, but regardless, what is clear is it's tough out here, man. It's very tough out here with what's going on in the labor market. People get unemployed. You know, it used to be like, okay, 3 months I can get back on my feet. Now it's 6 months, a year. Some people have been out there for 2 years since it really started popping off. And nobody's safe. Nobody's safe, man. So if you have a job, again, God bless you, because, you know, some people out here struggling, man. Some people out here struggling. So with that being said, I hope y'all got a lot of value from the video. Hopefully I put some facts out there to kind of help y'all, spark y'all, you know, thought process about what's really going on. It's not that cut and dry. But also what it really looking like out here from if you're single and you're married. Again, there's other, you know, scenarios, but this kind of at least give you a snapshot on what's going on. And so with that, again, if it's your first time, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video out as well. With that being said, I appreciate y'all. Much love. Peace.